I'm here with 1st District Congressman candidate Frank Emiro. And Frank, first off, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a U.S. Navy Army veteran. I was never in combat, but I was in during the combat theater, and I served in Germany. And I got to meet some German soldiers, and even didn't know it. I met a Russian, and I had to deal with also a Nazi that they were very quiet. And I also dealt with the Russians because I was a military policeman.
And why have you decided to run for election for U.S. Congress?
Well, I was a former state representative in New Hampshire, and I did federal and state regulations and Veterans Affairs. And I know the corruption in government, and it's one word, corruption. And there's too many veterans that are being mistreated and abused. And I'd like to see that some things are done. And in this district, I came down, and two of my friends that got to know me from the Combat Vets Motorcycle Association, they were both chairmen up north, asked me to seek office. They needed me. And I said, why me? And they said, well, you like the way you get things done. So hopefully I'll be able to still do that.
What do you think the biggest issue facing the United States is currently?
Well, I think the biggest issue, number one, is the American flag. If you don't understand the American flag, then please leave the United States of America. And if you go back to the War of 1812, the British said if that flag gets taken down, we win. So those that were there at the fort in Baltimore died, several of them. And they were all on top of the flag pole, keeping it straight up. And that's what it means. And you shouldn't dip the American flag in these United States of America. And with President Trump, yes, I met him when I was up in New Hampshire. He's a real New York guy, and I can understand him. And the FBI, if you look at their building, you'll see they got several American flags, and they're dipped. You do not dip the American flag in these United States of America. It's straight up, or you can put it at East Tennessee State University. I went there. My hobby is model trains. I went there, and they have the American flag displayed properly long way. And if you go to Grand Central Terminal, no, not station, terminal in Manhattan on 42nd Street, you'll see the American flag is displayed properly. You don't pin it, you don't restrict it, you don't sit on it, you don't dip it, you do it right. And my issue is if you don't respect the American flag, then you don't respect the people in these United States of America. And going back to another issue would be the American flag is number one. Our veterans are also number one. Yes, the ones in combat, we're all there from because those of us that served, we have their backs. And the Pledge of Allegiance, if you can't say it, I grew up in New York where the First Amendment for the Bill of Rights was, but in fourth grade we were taught that you must be well, let me just say, I'm sorry my phone rang, and I hate that. I got to shut it off, and it keeps going. But there's just so many things that go on that it just gets to be interruptions like right now. But what I was saying was the American flag is always number one. Our veterans are always number one because they serve. And when you take the Pledge of Allegiance, that means you're standing for being American rights and respect. If you kneel, it means you're not an American. You're against an American. You're against these people of the United States of America. And I understand in East Tennessee, there's lots of religious people. Well, again, let's go back to the War of 1812. The White House was lit on fire, and it was burning. And I forget who it was, the people that came here that were very sort of religious. They put a memorial there, and I don't know if Barack Obama, they say he took it out, but it was from these historical people. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they say, thanks to God, there was rainfall, and there was no rain due, and it put out the fire at the White House. So my issue is, let's respect Americans. We're not a democracy. That's why they don't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance, because when you say it, it's the republic for which it stands. The last democracy was the 300 Spartans, and they're dead. That's why the Founding Fathers did this properly by writing the Bill of Rights and everything else. And one of the things that upsets me, too, is Justice Scalia modified the First Amendment, and that's my hometown of Mount Vernon, New York. It used to be Eastchester. And Peter Singer was put in jail, and the governor, the British governor at that time, wanted him executed. Then they found out he wasn't lying, and that's why, because of Peter Singer, you must tell the truth, have documents for the proof, you can't make false statements. Now that we're becoming a democracy, yes, they're making lots of false statements. And if you ever met President Trump, and my hand shook his hand, he's a good man, I know the real man. He had to deal with the Bar Association. He had to deal with mobsters and all kinds of people that run organizations and even unions. But he got it all done properly. That's why he's successful. So when people attack him, they don't know the real man. He wants to, like he said in New Hampshire and other places he testified, bring back the United States of America, make America great again. And I'm all for this president.
And let's narrow it down a little bit. What do you think is the biggest issue that Tennessee is facing currently?
The biggest issue I see in Tennessee is there's too many homeless people. There's too many people getting benefits that are only $300 to $500 a month. Members of Congress and the U.S. Senate are getting tons of money, tons of benefits. Those that serve, that went to college, all their college fees are paid automatically. Why can't we do something here in Tennessee? And I see there's 4 Republican candidates for governor, and there's also a Democrat that was the mayor of Nashville. And I'm looking at more or less Randy Boyd and Bill Lee. And not because they're men, but they were successful businessmen, not really into politics. And to me, when people say, you a politician, I said, no, I was never a politician. I was an elected official. A politician does the game. I'm not into the game. So I just see that Tennessee needs to bring some good jobs here. President Trump is doing things, even getting coal miners back to work. And I think we should have some good jobs, not cheap paying. Let's make some nice, decent jobs. And if Congress can get all these benefits for free that the taxpayers are paying for, why can't we help ladies that lost their husbands, husbands that are by themselves? Why can't we make sure they have a comfortable place to live? And if I were elected into Congress, the first year's salary within the 2-year period would get donated to people that are veterans in this district that are homeless, not to give them the cash, but to get that money put away. And I'll deal with other people, even here in the state of Tennessee, that would like to help build a place where they're safe and be at a VA facility. And I have to agree with Ronald Reagan. End the veterans' hospitals. Go to your doctor and get veterans care provided for you there through the VA administration. And I agree with that. And I'll have to tell you, I dislike everything I'm hearing about Phil Rowe more and more. He's the chairman of the Veterans Committee. Well, Phil, tell me something. I've been in touch with you 7 times. Never got a reply except once when the guy was driving his car and couldn't meet me. So you're not doing anything for veterans. Let's stop the games. I don't like the word corruption. I want to make sure that here in Tennessee, we do the right thing. And if they do it here right first, that means every other state will do it too.
And what are some of your other plans if you're elected?
Some of my other plans? Well, I'm for the wall. I don't think illegal immigrants should be here. And I am for veterans. I am for U.S. citizens. I want to see jobs. I want to see when you walk down the street, you see somebody smile. And we're not seeing that. And I would support the president, I would say, basically in most things he's doing. And I did work for a member of Congress who was a Republican, had to become a Democrat because he had a falling out with Nelson Rockefeller. And he was America's highest decorated police officer. And the other thing is in the correctional facilities and law enforcement, I'm sure lots of you folks watch the news and you say, oh, the cop shot this guy, that guy. Well, I did military police corps and I was trained in Georgia. And we were taught, and even as citizens back in New York in the day, that if a law enforcement officer says to you, stop, you better stop. Because if you're not, you're violating the restriction. You're running away, means you're guilty. They have to shoot at you to stop you. They will attempt to shoot to wound you to bring you down. So when all these people are bringing up all these protests against our law enforcement, well, if, I don't know where it was, I think it was in Pittsburgh, that there were 3 guns found, 2 in the car and 1 in the guy they shot because he didn't stop. He was shooting people. So that's got nothing to do with the Second Amendment. Those weapons were illegal, and they were illegal. So when you run away, if a law enforcement officer says, stay there, put your hands on the wheel, do that. If you have a gun or something in your pocket or in your glove compartment, just say, officer, I can get out of the car. You can handcuff me if you want. You can look in my pocket or whatever. I do have a weapon, but I don't want to take my hands down and make you think I'm going to shoot you. I'm not into that. So I think we can do lots of things properly if we go back to the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, all of the amendments, and have respect for what this nation was put forward for.
And is there anything else you'd like to say before we go?
Well, I was told I was taken off the primary. I'm a Republican. I'm originally from New York. And like I said, I was a state representative in New Hampshire. I was with the VVA 49, even though I wasn't in Vietnam, in New York. I'm with the several veterans groups. I sat on a veterans committee at the VA Medical Center because there's no such thing as hospitals. Reagan took that out. And I understand what goes on and the corruption, again, that's the C word, corruption, that's going on in this nation, and I want to stop it. We got to stop all these people that are getting paid to do what they said to do. And I just want things done properly. It's not about me. I get asked to do things, and I'm like, why me? And I'm not world famous. I'm not rich. I'm on retirement. But I came to East Tennessee because I like the view, and there's some decent people here. And I used to truck drive through coast to coast. I've been in all states except Alaska, Hawaii, North Dakota, and I've dealt with all kinds of situations. And if you ever met Frank Riggs, who was the congressman that put the wall from California to Yuma, Arizona, he knows me. Paul Gosser in Arizona, he knows me. And there's other people that know me too, and I won't sit here to discuss that, but I'd like to win an election. I don't have money, and we'll go to Feingold and McCain. What happened? They put all this nonsense in with the PAC money. So all these commercials on TV and the news media will not accept someone, and I'm very thankful here for Reed having me here, that I didn't have to pay to come. I don't have to pay for commercials. He's addressing the issues with me. And that's what I think it should be done. That's what the media is about. And if you ever go to Mount Vernon, New York, on South Columbus, South Fulton Avenue, St. Paul's Episcopal Church, that's where Peter Zenger had his printing press, and they have one there, and it's a federal historical site. And if my name's not on the ballot, you can just handwrite it, Frank, last name, Emiro, and we'll see. And I'm sorry, I will not vote for Phil Rowe. When I was working as a staff member for a member of Congress, we addressed the issues. You got to address them. And I appreciate you having time to listen to me. Hope I didn't give you a New York headache, but I appreciate it, and I want to thank Reed for having me here.
That was Frank Emiro, and he is running for 1st District U.S. Congress.